Peace, peace, peace. Peace to the gods, peace to the gods. What's happening? What's happening? Sup. Want to chop it up with y'all a little bit today. I get logged in. All right. Good to go. Want to talk to y'all, chop it up with y'all today. Y'all see the topic I want to talk about. And I would just want to talk about what I'm seeing that's happening out in the world with the media and just everything in general. And what I've come to understand about my own understanding about what is going on and the battle that people are engaged in, against their freedom versus slavery, because I do think that it is some sort of slavery, some sort of very sophisticated slavery that is being attempted to being foisted upon the American people, which is going to require that they demonstrate a certain intellectual aptitude, as it relates to, just basic things, like how you interact with your government and the purpose of government and the principles that government are supposed to be operating under, just those couple of things. And what I'm seeing, I used to be in, like for years a Democrat. And I'm not here to really pit Democrat versus Republican, but I do think that people are being given a choice because they need your voluntary consent. And I think they're putting a choice in front of you and people can't really see the choice because it gets obscured with frivolous things such as, oh, they all racist and prejudice. Those things right there are like binders that prevent you from seeing the truth. When you prejudice about something, you can't be prejudiced about anything. You can't be prejudiced about any kind of information. You always got to have an open mind and allow yourself to examine what is being said to you and analyze it properly without allowing your prejudice to color it, and then come to a determination on something. That's when you start living in truth. That's when you start also demonstrating a certain level of humility. And I think when it comes to this information, that's something that is thoroughly needed. On this channel, you hear me talking about privacy a lot. Public versus private. And and that just comes from a lot of study on, like public rights doctrine. A lot of people, I don't think they think that the government has any rights. The government has rights. The government has rights too. It's called the public rights doctrine or state rights doctrine. You can put anyone in Google and, read up on that. But that was something that really triggered me when I was studying American jurisprudence, because I was studying administrative law. And that's where you're going to get into a lot of the discussion about public rights doctrine, is when you start studying administrative law. I think I got some PDFs of American jurisprudence on SPC University. So if you're a member, you can go into the PDF library and you'll see a folder for American jurisprudence. You can do some, your own online research. But I do think that administrative law is a very, very interesting topic. I feel like administrative law, though, is being used because most of the people have acquiesced to what you are calling a de facto government. That's the term that everybody uses, but it only becomes de facto because you acquiesce to it, you accept it, and that makes it lawful. That makes it lawful. It might be de facto, but it's lawful. Where did I get that from? American jurisprudence on de facto governments. They got a whole section in there that you can study. They will teach you about the difference between a de jure government and a de facto government. Right? American jurisprudence. Somebody asked, can I become a secure party creditor in another country? I don't know. I'm not in that country. I ain't gonna speak on things I don't know about. I don't know. I know the UCC is all over the world. I don't know what your constitution is. I don't know how y'all laws are drafted up. I don't know anything about Sweden, you know. So, or another country, period. I get reports from other people, like in China and what was that, Greenland, and I got viewers from all over the world, and they write me and say yes, it's very similar, But the thing is that I am not looking at country. I'm looking at universal principles, and one of the major laws of the universe is free will. And if you remember that on everything that you do, that they cannot get involved or attack your free will. You have to understand that that's a serious spiritual violation to tamper with anyone's free will. It's always has to be acquiesced to, or they get your permission, or they get your voluntary consent. And consent can be given in many different ways. It can be demonstrated through your silence. It can be expressly through a written contract. All right, you signing your name on something, but they're needing your consent. And that's something that I try to urge people to always remember. You always have a choice. Don't ever say that you don't have a choice. Just by making that statement, the universe will create your reality to seem like you don't have a choice. You shouldn't even use that verbiage to yourself. You always have a choice. You always have a choice. All right. And the choice is between freedom and being beholden to a corporate government. And freedom, you're responsible for everything yourself. That's what private means, your private property. Private property means absence of government. So all of your property, your homes, your cars, the privacy of your home, that's why they have to have a warrant to come into your home and things of that nature, because the Constitution tells you the private property shall not be taken without due process of law and just compensation. All right, that's a restraint on the government. So for them to circumvent that restraint, because that comes out of the organic Constitution, they're going to need our permission. It's just like a vampire. There's this movie called Let Me In. That was a good-ass movie. That vampire couldn't cross over the threshold of anybody's home unless you gave him permission. And that's just like with the federal government. Everything with them is about getting your permission, getting your implied consent, your consent, whether implied or express. They just want your consent. When it's an implied consent, that means your conduct has made them determine that they can move forward, or they can do X, Y, and Z. Like you agreeing to be a lab rat, or just anything. You taking PPP loans. The PPP loans do help business and things like that, but it's a benefit and a privilege. I was just watching on YouTube where there's this private Catholic school down in Florida, and they didn't want to let anybody work there who had taken the vaccine. And they flipped back to some of the analysts and everything, and they were saying, well, it was just discovered that they got a PPP loan. We can come in and make them do it, And that right there was a telling sign of what I've been saying to everyone. There is no such thing as something for nothing. That's another principle of the universe. The principle of the universe is the universe abhors a vacuum. So there's no such thing as empty space. So if you take something and give nothing back, then there's empty space, and that doesn't exist. In reality, there isn't any empty space. All space is occupied by something. All right, so that's why you can't get rid of a habit. You have to change it into something else. You got to, change your habit. Everything has a polarity. Everything has an opposite pole, so, there's no empty space. So that's another principle that people need to understand. And then you can see when people are offering you something, and then under the guise of, oh, we're giving this for your benefit, it's free. It's not free. There's going to be some sort of expectation of performance that's going to be demanded upon you. So now I get to the topic of what I'm discussing, and that is privacy and socialism and communism and, all these different things. When you go to my website, SBC University, and you go under the resource tab, there's a PDF section. Click on that. Go all the way to the bottom in the first column, and you're going to see a military manual. It's a military manual. And it was written in 1920, but it was for the military. Teach them about citizenship. And what was really interesting about it is they compared and contrasted oh man, did somebody just take that down? Somebody just took down my resource button. Hold on, y'all. Somebody just took it down. They working on my website. So, but let me go ahead and give you the skinny on it. I see they're changing stuff on the website right now. They said they were going to take that down. Okay, you took it down. You know, you could have warned me before you took it down. Let me see. See if I can get back on it though. All right, I got to it. All right, cool. I had to go through the back door. All right, this is Military Training Manual, and it's on page 91 of the PDF. 91, when you count the, is it 91? I think it's 91. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's 91. All right, so let me read this to y'all. This is the difference between an autocracy, a democracy, and a republic. They made a very distinct difference between the three. I just saw some analysts calling Putin an autocrat, you know, and, you know, you're going to see what the difference between the three, but you got an autocracy, a democracy, and a republic. So let's look and see what they were training the military in the 1920s to understand as it relates between these three different forms of government. So in the first one, we have autocracy. And it is authority is derived through heredity. People have no choice in the selection of their rulers and no voice in making of the laws. Results in arbitrariness, tyranny, and oppression. Attitude toward property is feudalistic. Attitude toward law is that the will of the ruler shall control regardless of reason or consequences. So it's kind of like a king almost. You know, you kind of living like a king, and, you know, that's what an autocracy is. But it's not quite a monarch, but it's very similar, you know, in what I'm looking at. But let's look and see what democracy, what they were teaching the military about what a democratic form of government. Because you constantly see them talking about this is a threat to our democracy. We need to preserve our democracy. And some of y'all are just regurgitating that, you know, because it sounds good, even though you don't see the word democracy in the Constitution for the United States of America. You don't see it in the Declaration of Independence. Hell, you don't even say it when you do the Pledge of Allegiance. You pledge an allegiance to the republic for which the flag stands. But they keep on harping on this democracy. So let's get some background information on democracy. Because that word, the way it sounds like freedom. You know, they didn't associate it with freedom. But it's not freedom. Okay, a democracy, a government of the masses, authority derived through mass meeting or any other form of direct expression, results in mobocracy. Attitude toward property is communistic, negating property rights. Attitude toward law is that the will of the majority shall regulate, whether it is based upon deliberation or governed by passion, prejudice, and impulse without restraint or regard to consequences. Results in demagogism, license, agitation, discontent, and anarchy. Now, right there, you know, when you look at that, they use the term mobocracy, you know, and that's why they say that democracy is mob rule, okay, because they don't respect the individual, the rights of the individual. Now, this is what they were teaching the military. All right, you can go to my website. I'll put a link to it under this video so y'all can click on it. Matter of fact, let me see if I can just put it in the chat room right now, and y'all can download this. Go to page 91, I mean 91, and look at it yourself. I'm putting it in the chat for y'all right now, the link. Y'all can click on that link right now and download it. And read it. Go to page 91 and look at the difference between the three. You need to open up your eyes and see what people are doing. So now that we done kind of looked into what a democracy truly is, all right, now we can go and start analyzing the people that claim that they represent a democracy and whether or not they're being forthright in what their true intentions are. So, you're seeing a lot of liberals, you're seeing a lot of rights being promulgated for foreigners, gays, just anybody who is not within the traditional way that the traditional American values, which would be, I guess, adverse to a conservative person, but traditional American values. So now you're seeing this change as if a change is needed. It's like, well, that is antiquated the way that you think, and is also antiquated in the way that society has been going forth. Now, what I tend to do when I look at change and things of that nature, because I know the only thing that doesn't change is change. You always have to be willing to change and acceptance of change if you're going to grow. So change is imminent, but also have to think that there has to be a baseline for whether or not you're living in harmony with nature or not. And that means that you have to know what the 7 principles are. And then that way you can make a determination of whether you're being led down a road that is beneficial and advantageous to you, or it's adverse to you and advantageous for someone else. All right. Because at the end of the day, you got to be happy and you got to do what's best for you. All right. So, and looking at that, now when I start analyzing a lot of the things that are happening, they will, it's like they're offering you benefits and privileges, and people do not know the impact of accepting a benefit and a privilege. Anything connected with a social security number is a benefit and a privilege. That's your employment, you're working. That's your bank account. That's anything that you have associated with a social security number. The social security number is what allows you to be this U.S. citizen, or this, or what allows federal agencies also to come in and regulate you, because you're being brought into a corporate structure and they have the authority to regulate commerce according to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. It's called the Commerce Clause. You need to Google that, the Commerce Clause. So everything commercially related is within the ambit of their delegated authority. And they also have plenary power over that particular regulation because of something that is called separation of powers. And this is what you hear the Supreme Court broach the word or use the term political question doctrine. Okay, the political question doctrine is tied directly into separation of powers. All right, each of the individual branches of government cannot get involved with the other branch when they're exercising a power that has been authorized by the Constitution and the will of the people. So that's why they did that. So we don't have no king. The president ain't a king. He's just the head of the military and the executive branch of government, and all the agencies of government are under the executive branch. So when he issues an executive order, that's who he's talking to. He's not talking to you. I wish some people would stop thinking executive orders have something to do with the people in general. Executive orders are just what generals of armies do. They give orders. They give orders to their troops because he's under the executive branch of government. So that's for them. That's not for you. Unless you're a federal employee, then perhaps it may be for you, because that is, I think, an operational presumption when you're using a social security number and you're using any of the benefit and privileges that they have to offer. And I just kind of wanted to get that message out there, because the next thing I want to read to you is about communism. Now, you can go to my same webpage that I was just reading that about mobocracy, and I have another one called the Communist Manifesto. It's in the 3rd column. It's the 3rd one from the bottom. And that right there which is written by Karl Marx. If you go to page 46 on the PDF, what you're going to see is the distinguishing feature of communism is not the abolition of property generally, but the abolition of the bourgeois property. But modern bourgeois private property is the final and most complete expression of the system of producing and appropriating products that is based on class antagonisms on the exploitation of the many by the few. In this sense, the theory of the communists may be summed up in the single sentence, abolition of private property. So the communists, when you see people in the media and they saying that they communists, Their end goal is the total elimination of private property and have the government in control of everything. So they're for big government. They're for big government regulation. Everything is controlled by the government. Now, when you go on and read this even more, what you're going to find out is that, everybody's going to be obligated to work and have a job. The type of job you have will be dictated to you. It's going to be based off of what they deem what you are genetically gifted to do. Whether you're genetically gifted to be an athlete, okay, you'll be an athlete. If you're intellectually gifted to be a doctor, you'll be that. But it's going to be outlined, for what you to do. Okay, and the government is going to be in control of everything. You already seeing that you won't own any property, but you're going to love it. So what we're heading toward is communism. There's this lady down in Florida. She was just at a school board meeting. It's going viral on Instagram, where she went at the school board and was pointing out all this communistic material that's being taught to your children. To hate the police. If you don't agree with somebody's sexual orientation, then you're homophobic. Just starting putting labels on you. And that's something that you see them talked and discussed in the protocols of the learned elder design, some of the tactics that they would be using. And one of them is to kind of put a label on some people and things like that, try to label you as something because you express an opinion about something that's adverse to the way they want society to go. So right there, you're going to see, you're going to lose a lot of your freedoms. And a lot of people are losing them because they are not educated. They don't know the things that I just talked about and discussed, even though, your common sense will tell you, what is a democracy? Why is it 51% of people vote for something, the other 49% got to go along with it? What kind of government is that? That doesn't seem like a very free type of government. Right? And that's what it's not, because a republic is what that is. Did I read what a republic is? Let's read and see what a republic is. Let me read to tell you what a republic is, what they taught the military in the 1920s, what a republic is, what they were teaching military personnel. Authority is derived through the election of the people of public officials best fitted to represent them. Attitude toward property is respect for laws and individual rights, and a sensible economic procedure. Attitude toward law is the administration of justice in accord with fixed principles and established evidence with a strict regard to consequences. A greater number of citizens and extent of territory may be brought within its compass. Avoids the dangerous extreme or either tyranny or mobocracy. Results in statesmanship, liberty, reason, justice, contentment, and progress. Is the standard form of government throughout the world. Because, Russia is republic and China is a republic. They getting food over there in their countries too. We have some expert commentary added to it. A republic is a form of government under a constitution which provides for the election of, number one, the executive, and number two, a legislative body who, working together in a representative capacity, have all the power of appointment, all power of legislation, all power to raise revenue and appropriate expenditures, and are required to create, number three, a judiciary to pass upon the justice and legality of their governmental acts and to recognize, number four, certain inherent individual rights. Take away any one or more. Now notice number four, they have to, certain inherent individual rights. That's required under republic. Why would you want to get away from that? Why would you not respect that? Anything else to me seems like you are requesting to be under slavery. I'm going to talk about that. Take away any one or more of those four elements and you are drifting into an autocracy. Add one or more to those four elements and you're drifting into a democracy. I think this was an excellent definition to get people's heads wrapped around the difference between a democracy, a republic, and an autocracy. And it makes you wonder also why the Democrats chose a jackass as their mascot. Just makes me wonder. All these things I wonder about. I'm sure somebody would come up with some good reason. I was just selected because, back in the 1700s, a mule walked up to President George Washington, and something. Come up with some shit that'll explain it away. But what does a jackass represent? Somebody who's stubborn, and that's what you see over there. Okay, so we want to get to the truth of everything. All right, which. When we're talking about privacy, we're talking about freedom, to do what you want to do. And you have a right to not to be under any laws. I don't know why they keep saying this. It's right on the internet. Because when we go to the public question doctrine or compel public interest doctrine, okay, right there, that entertains the question whether or not you have a right not to be under any public laws, and you do. But at the same time, you have to understand that you don't have any right to go and infringe on the public and trample on their rights. You can read that in Hale versus Hinkle too. All right, gives you very that principle is outlined very good in Hale versus Hinkle. But those are things that you have to understand. Where is the line that separates public and private? And what is the public doing to entice you to come over into the public to be some sort of surety to pay the national debt? Now, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but they put in these national debt billboards up all over the country, and it tells you what the country owes collectively, and it also tells you the individual national debt for each individual private, which is around $84,000 per person in the United States. That's what it's saying owed by each person. Now, it stands to reason to me if everybody woke up and understood how to create a negotiable instrument for that amount and everybody just en masse send the federal government an $84,000 promissory note or a bill of exchange or something like that, it seemed like we could just annihilate the public debt in one full swoop. What it sounds like to me. Why are you telling me that my individual debt is $84,000 when it tells you right in the Bible? What does it say about a debtor? Proverbs 22:7, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. That's why you got to learn how to do business through a corporation, some sort of corporate entity. Because if you're going to put something in debt, put your corporation in debt. Put an artificial person in debt, not you personally. Learn how to do business credit and operate everything, because their whole world is commercial and is geared toward commerce. Their world is not created to accommodate real living souls or individuals. The world is that whole in total United States of America that y'all talking about, that corporate United States, it is only conducive to corporations. Everything over there is an artificial person. That's why we're talking about all caps names. That's an artificial person. Everything that interacts with them is an artificial person. It's artificial in nature. Everything about the public. They can't put a patent on nothing natural. They're trying to get y'all to take, vaccinations and doing all kind of things, feeding you all artificial food. Now they're trying to come up with artificial intelligence. Just everything is artificial. It's not real. That's the only God. That's the only way they can become God of their own universe. They got to create one. And that's what he's doing. And you know what? At the end of the day, I think it would make them God, because if they created a virtual world and you decided to spend the majority of the time in that, the people, the creators of that, and who administrate that virtual world, they are in essence your gods. Makes you kind of wonder if we're living in some sort of giant simulation. I see what people mean. But anyway. Peace, 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 peace. I want to just get that message, out there and just get people to thinking about, what's coming, what they're doing every day on the television, what they are promoting, how is it affecting your children? Look how morality has gone down. Look how few families there are now. That's a very easy way to destroy a nation and make sure there aren't any families. There's no man in the house, or there's no woman in the house as an example to the children. Of course, everybody gonna start growing up soft if everybody's raised by women. And now they're trying to put women in control of everything. They're trying to put women in control of everything. That sounds like a nation that's getting ready to be taken over. That's what it sounds like to me, that they preparing you to get taken over. Last time I checked, the men are the protectors and providers, not women. Just saying. Just 10 likes. Well, he made a good point. He says 200 people in there and nobody like. Well, sometimes you got to remind people to like a video, like, comment, and subscribe. You know, you got to start, like, that is something that I've always thought about, is like, I've noticed that, and this is a number. It's only about, it's only like about 10 to 15% of the people who watch videos who actually like it or comment. And I thought that was very interesting. I can understand you not commenting, but you can't even just exhibit a demonstration of your will and push up or down and say you liked the video, you hated the video. If you didn't like it, put the down button. Just say you didn't, That I do that, like, when I watch other people's videos, I always try to remind myself, because I forget sometimes. I'll be watching an interesting video and I'll forget to like it or something. But the majority of the time I remember, because I know I got my own blog and I want people to like mine. So, you got to put that energy out there to get it back, so like the video or dislike it, just do something, because it helps the analytics. It helps the analytics, and it also helps, direct to make sure you get notifications and things of that nature. So make sure you like the video or dislike the video. Either way. I know, it ain't gonna make me mad if you dislike it. I'm used to it. I'm used to it now. All right, so let's talk about surprisingly, many people want to be ruled and demand a king or ruler. I did not learn that until recently. That was going to be the next thing I was going to say. That's why I asked the question, do you want, is this something you want? Because 1933, what I see what happened, and it was very skillfully plotted out. It really was. After the passage of the Federal Reserve Act, it was just 20 years later, and then they had the Great Depression. 20 years later, after these people took over your monetary policy, they had a Great Depression, and then they took over and started issuing you Federal Reserve notes and took all your gold and silver. Now they want to act like you can't discharge a debt. Now they want to act like there's no expectation of return of all the gold and silver that the government took of the American people. They are just trustees of that gold and silver. They could not use that gold and silver for their own personal interest. It had to be in the interest of the American people. So they trustees of it, and they have to give it back. And until you give it back, he who has the gold pays the bills. So that's why we are sending you correspondence to the Treasury Department, okay? Because you are the one who has all the substance meaning the gold, okay? You didn't leave anything of substance out here for the citizens to interact with other than promises to pay. And now you get mad when we ask you to do an accounting and balance the books as if something we're saying is crazy. Does it sound like I'm talking crazy? Does this sound ludicrous to you? Is this not something that is based in fact, in history, that this happened? Is it not on the public record that you declared bankruptcy? Is it not on the public record that you rescinded the gold clause? Is it not on the public record that you created a Social Security Administration in order to circumvent violating the Constitution by using the plenary power doctrine as it relates to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution, which is a loophole that allowed you to create this corporate United States so you can do these activities such as giving everybody Federal Reserve notes to use instead of what is lawful under the Constitution of using gold and silver? Not to say that I'm mad about it or anything like that, but all I'm trying to say is, what are you trying to act like? You trying to act like none of this stuff what we're saying makes any sense? This is what this process is based off, the fact that you are a public servant, okay? You need to be reminded of that fact from time to time, which is what I like old girl did down in Florida, reminded those school board people that, hey, y'all work for us. We pay for all this. I'm coming here airing a grievance. You sitting here and bought books outside the budget and passing them out to all the students, teaching them about communism and hate and separation and division and trying to alter their sexual orientation. And no one is supposed to see that and look at that as if it is not some sort of plot? Is that what I'm to understand? When you just blatantly start attacking traditional Christian values. Let's go on and say what it is. It's Christian values. And I don't really consider myself a Christian per se. Not the way that it is traditionally practiced, like going to church, listen to a preacher and things of that nature. No, it's more so of an understanding of the principles contained in the Bible. Remember earlier when I said that you got to get rid of this prejudiceness. You can't be prejudiced toward information. You'll never get to the truth. You got to be open to hearing everybody. This is why I've studied everything from Scientology to Moore Science Temple to Native American shamanism and all kind of things. And the reason why is because once you do that and you start comparing them, like in comparative religious study, what you're going to do is start noticing the similarities. And the similarities is what you should be keen on, not the differences. If you're keen on the differences, then you're allowing your prejudice to rule you. If you key on the similarities, now you're about to grow, because that's where the truth lies. The truth lies in all the similarities. There's only one truth. Ain't no multiple different truths. So if you're looking at multiple different differences in a religion, then okay, that ain't the truth. The truth is what is similar amongst all of them. That's where you find the truth. And the only way you're going to know that is that you got to have some basic principles that are guiding you too. And it's not to say that, it's like, and that's why I'm respectful of everybody's religious belief. I'm respectful of all of them. I don't discount any of them. Hell, I don't even talk negatively about Satanists. I think they crazy, but I've read some of their material and I can see that they understand they're not lunatics. They are very intelligent people. And they have a very good grasp of the understanding of universal principles. I can see that. Now, they may be using it for something negative or something that is adverse to me. I'm not saying that I'm going along with their belief, but I can respect the fact that they understand this universal truth that I'm talking about, that Satan understands that there is a God and there's not, and that he's not God. Y'all putting Satan on the same level as God. There's only one source. There's only one power, and everything derives from that power. And so when you look at all these different religions, it's like gold that's being molded into different forms. You can have a necklace, you can have a ring, you can have a bracelet, but it's all gold. But if you only allow your biasness and prejudice, to make you prefer one over the other because it's shaped differently, then how you ever going to get to the truth? And so when I look at the Bible, and I don't read the Bible with the same eyes I used to. I don't look at it that way. I look at the Bible with a whole different set of eyes now. I'm looking at it from a perspective of what universal principles are being displayed. And one of the primary ones that does not allow me to conform to communism or socialism is it is against natural law. I look at Karl Marx as some kind of demon. I don't look at him as a genius. You're only going to look at him as a genius if you lazy, if you think you owed something, if you have a victim mentality. Yes, you are. But when you understand that you have the God force in you, that you have the universal spark, that what all of these secret societies don't want you to know is that God spirit that's running through you is capable of doing anything. All you have to do is tap into it. All you have to do is eliminate fear and doubt. And you can tap into it. That's what they're terrified of. They're terrified of a great awakening. The great awakening is that you a damn God. Like it says in John 10:34, like it says in Genesis 3:22, like it says in Psalms 82:6. Y'all trying to act like y'all don't know what that's talking about. That's talking about some judges and shit like that. That's not what that's talking about. You got the story right there in Genesis. The whole story in Genesis chapter 3 is telling you what it is. They don't never call it a devil in there, by the way, either. Eve was speaking to a serpent or Nakash. And he told, you surely shall not. He told in 3:5, he said, you shall not surely die. God doth know that in the day that ye eat thereof, your eyes shall be open. Or he said Elohim, because Elohim is a plural. He was saying the Elohim, those beings, they know that when you eat of this knowledge, that your eyes are going to be open and you're going to be just like them, knowing good and evil, or knowing positive and negative, cause and effect, or whatever. You're going to be awakened. You're going to be like them. And then they verified in Psalms 82:6 and John 10:34. They verified. But it doesn't mean that you are the creator of the boundless universe. I think some of y'all, when y'all hear that word God, which is a German word, the German language didn't exist before 750 AD. So we don't have to get caught up on the word God, because that word doesn't really exist nowhere in the Bible. All right. You're better off using the word Allah or Eli. Like Jesus said in Matthew 27:46, Eli lama sabachthani. He spoke in Aramaic. That's the language he used. He didn't use the word God. You've seen the movie, The Book of Eli, with Denzel Washington? How many of that went over your head? That the title of that movie was The Book of God. And all through the movie, he's walking with a Bible written in Braille in his hands. And he's blind. So he's operating off faith. Excellent movie. One of the best movies that Denzel Washington ever made, to me, was The Book of Eli. Eli, Allah, Ilo, all sound similar. Some of the things are just like, you can use your basic understanding. Yusef, you a great educator. Now, I ain't read the longer doc. Gene ain't never, when you talk about Gene Keating and the prison treaties, he told me that same thing too. I talked to him on the phone, but I've never read it. I ain't got a chance to read it. There are different versions of them out there. One good version, if you can find it, I've been looking for it, is the one that teaches you what you have to do to get off probation. And they're having a discussion at the end of that you have to discharge the probation. But it takes some balls to be able to do. But it talks about different warrants too. It's something that I would not just advise somebody. I don't even bring it up because I don't even want to put information out there. It's something that you need to really, 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 really study and understand what you're doing. You need to understand them tax forms and all that kind of stuff thoroughly. That's not something you just jump out there and really do. And understand also that being on probation is incarceration. So you can't do a habeas corpus. You incarcerated when you're on probation. All right, let's see. Everybody said, you used to could find a lot of copies of the Constitution for the United States of America, but just like anything off the internet, it disappears over time. There used to be a lot of stuff I could find on the internet. I can't find a lot of it no more. And one of them are copies of, you used to see the distinction all over the place. Now all you see is the Constitution of the United States. It's all you see right now. Now, they got one, I think, in, what is that? I'm going to pull up this video where I think it's in Arizona or Kentucky, or one of the places they found in their library the original Constitution and the 13th Amendment, how it wasn't about slavery. It was about not allowing attorneys to be in public office. I think it's that document. But it used to be everywhere. Now it's not. But I'm going to tell you, do you want me to understand? Because I know that you're asking for proof. So I'm going to tell you how I arrived at my understanding about the Constitution. Because I don't want you to think I just rolled off somebody's coattail or something like that. The thing is, you got to start with the definition of the Constitution, okay? And then you also have to read, let me give it to you real quick. Because you got to understand, like in the UCC, it tells you, and under location of the debtor, that the United States is located in the District of Columbia. And there's also it's in United States Code Services book. I did a video. If you look at the video, Yusef in the Law Library, that's the case. It's right here on my website. And the research I conducted on that went like this. I started off reading the definition of Constitution. Okay, the definition of Constitution. So I'm going to do that for you real quick. I'm going to start off reading you the definition of a Constitution. All right? Because that's where you have to start. You always start with the definition of the words if you want to get understanding on something. Because how can you have good communication skills if you don't know the meaning of words? So I don't understand why, I go to the dictionary all the time. You'll never catch me. Anybody who studies under me knows I'm constantly using the dictionary, constantly. I'm on them about writing down words and getting flashcards and writing down these words, knowing these, because this is a language you got to learn. And if you ain't taking time to learn the language, you don't know what you're talking about. But let me get back to the question of where can I find, that was one of the questions somebody posted down in the chat room. Where can I find a copy of the Constitution for the United States of America? All right, they put it in all caps to make that distinction. But right here, I used to find it all the time. And then when I said, but I really wanted to make sure if that's really what the case was. All right, so I said, okay, well, let me start off by reading with the definition of Constitution. I think an 8th edition Black's Law Dictionary is amongst one of the best versions to come out. A lot of people just don't like it because it won't tell them what the old words mean, but I collect all the dictionaries. I don't have one that I say is better than the others. But all of them serve a purpose in some capacity. Constitution. All right, so right here, make sure this is it. Okay, yeah. All right, so this is under Black's Law. I have a Black's Law 8th edition, and I'm on page 937. 937. I'm going by the numbers that are in the PDF. They're at the bottom of the page, not the top. All right, so it'll be 937. And I'm going to read sense 4. I'm not going to read all the definitions. I'm going to go because it has 4 different senses of the word. The first sense of the word is going to give you like the umbrella meaning of the word, the general definition of the word. And then the more narrow senses follow that, all right, after the first definition. So the narrow senses of the word, one of them was under parliamentary law, which parliamentary law is the law that governs legislative bodies, all right, like, the Senate and the House of Representatives, or the House of Lords and the House of Commons in England. Okay, so these are the laws that govern them. Now you have to remember that the corporation, the United States, was created by your legislature. Okay, and it was the Organic Act of 1871. Okay, it was an act of Congress that created it. So now we're talking about some sort of legislative act, and this is dealing with the legislature. Okay, so under the legislature, when we read what a Constitution Act applies to a legislature, okay, when they create something, let me read this, it's very interesting. Parliamentary law, a governing document adopted by an organization for its internal governance and its external dealings. The Constitution may be an organization's most authoritative governing document, but if the organization has also received a charter or adopted articles of incorporation or association, then the Constitution is subordinate to them. If the organization has also adopted bylaws, then the bylaws are subordinate to and usually more easily amended than the Constitution. The Constitution and bylaws are sometimes contained in the same single document. See, governing document under this. So now we're talking about a constitution written to form a corporate organization. That term still applies here. So it was and that's why, there was this word I found in the law library, municipal constitution, because it's a municipal form of government. You've been made a citizen of some municipality in Washington, D.C. when you use that social security number, because you weren't born in. So how did you get a federal citizenship if you have never been in their jurisdiction? What is the nexus that creates this federal jurisdiction and allows them to operate under the presumption that you're a federal citizen? Under what minimum contact did this occur? Minimum contact is a legal word, by the way. Under what minimum contact did this occur that created this relationship with me and the federal government if I'm born in the state of Texas? What document did I sign? What activity did I engage in to authorize that? That's the question that you had to ask yourself. Was it because I called myself black, like the Moors said? When the birth certificate was written, it got black on there. And that's some sort of status that was allocated automatically to a 14th Amendment citizen. Or was it the fact that I accepted a social security number and put my children in public school? Was it when I agreed to get a driver's license and and register my car with the state? What is it? What are they? Why don't you tell us? Why can't you give us the truth and let us know? Like, look, when you do these activities, this is what's going to be expected of you. And if you avoid doing these activities, you're free to move about the country any way that you show desire, as long as you don't do X, Y, and Z. Why can't that be explained to the American people? Is somebody out there afraid of the truth? This is why I have a problem with the Democratic Party. It's not because I'm a Trump supporter, or it's not because, I'm Uncle Tom, and because that's basically what you're just saying, because you're just ignorant. You ain't studied no law, no politics, no nothing. You just band riding and haven't opened your eyes and educated yourself so you can make an intelligent decision. Okay, so you can make an intelligent decision. Not some shit because you saw it on CNN and they got your ass all emotional because they staging all this shit. Riots and things of that nature. All right? So you get to educate yourself. Okay, well, how is the country supposed to run? How is it really supposed to run? Why can't we start there? How's the country really supposed to run, and how are they trying? And then we can juxtapose that with how they are currently running the country. And see, this don't look too good. But how you gonna know if they not doing what they supposed to be doing if you don't know what they supposed to be doing? This is the thing I'm saying. So it's like people out there, they are voluntarily pushing us into this new world order. They let these people use fear and intimidation to get what they want. If there had been no televisions, I don't even know if we'd had a pandemic. There hadn't been a television. Are you saying that God needed us to have technology in order to avoid calamities? That don't even sound right. Not just that don't even sound right to me. I think we've gotten a little too attached to technology, and it's blurring our vision on the way that the path that we're supposed to be walking, the Sirato Mustaqim, that you were supposed to be engaged in, that straight and narrow road that you're supposed to be walking. I think, nobody knows. Everybody's just oblivious and everybody's all over the place right now. So what's going to bring everyone back into harmony or conformance with things and because I think at the end of the day, what we really, really want is peace on earth and for all men to get along and respect each other and respect each other's property. I think that's what we're going for. And because people can't do that, then that's why we have the need for government, all right, to be governed. Teddy Roosevelt, he said it very, very, very succinctly in his, I wouldn't say succinctly, but it was, it's on my Instagram. If y'all go to my Instagram is Yusef _EL_19. And if you go to my Instagram page, I got a little meme down at the bottom, toward the bottom, and it's a quote from Teddy Roosevelt. And he's a 33-degree Mason, by the way. I think that is significant because when they give you warnings, this to me is a warning. This is a warning from a 33-degree Mason. And he says, as regard the first set of dangers, it behooves us to remember that men can never escape being governed. Either they must govern themselves or they must submit to being governed by others. If from lawlessness or fickleness, from folly or self-indulgence, they refuse to govern themselves, then most assuredly, in the end, they will have to be governed from the outside. They can prevent the need of government from without only by showing they possess the power of government from within. A sovereign cannot make excuses for his failures. A sovereign must accept the responsibility for the exercise of power that inheres in him. And where, as it is true in our republic, the people are sovereign, then the people must show a sober understanding and a sane and steadfast purpose if they are to preserve that orderly liberty upon which as a foundation every republic must rest. Now, this was so eloquently stated. He's telling me if you want your Republican form of government, then you're going to have to go back to being sovereigns. And to be a sovereign means you're going to have demonstrate a sober understanding of who you are and what your responsibilities are as it relates to what is demanded of you if you want to preserve your freedom. And the number one thing that you have to get a hold of is how you think. You got to get rid of all this negativity in your mind. You got to get rid of all this blame. You got to get rid of all this prejudice that you have. You got to start to cultivate an earnest respect for your fellow man and start accepting the duties and responsibilities that are incumbent upon you as a man or a woman. Because I think that's gotten a little out of hand too, that people don't understand what it means to be a man and women don't understand what it means to be a woman and what the roles are. The roles are getting blurred now. And that's just what I see. I just kind of wanted to talk about that today because I think that there's a change coming on the horizon, and I don't think that it's going to be very pleasant. I do see that they got stalled a little bit because I don't think that as many people as they wanted took the vaccination, and they are sitting back somewhere to quell the discontent and to kind to finish pushing all the cattle through the gate to take the vaccination. I don't know what's in that thing. I don't know why they are so, with just a 99% recovery rate. It's not authorized by the FDA. The consent form tell you clearly they don't know what is going to happen. The side effects are all these questions and everything. And for there to be so many different questions, it's amazing to me that they're so, resilient and, trying to get people to do it. It's just, just brings a question to my mind. But I think at the end of the day, when we look at what is at stake, is your freedom and or whether or not you're going to be beholding to a corporate government. I think those are the only two paths that we're looking at ahead of us. And for you to know which path that you want to go down, first of all, you're going to have to do a self-assessment of yourself, because we do got people like that was in the Matrix, like ignorance is bliss, put me back in, and then we got those of us who, we see our existence. Do you think you were put on this planet? I have to ask this question. Do you think that you were put on this planet when you think about the miracle of life, just being alive? You think that you manifested down here to get a job and come home and watch TV and go to the local bar and have drinks and bullshit with your friends when every second you're getting closer to death and you don't know when it's going to knock on your door? Does that make any sense? What if you are capable of doing something? What if ever since you were born, there's been somebody directing you and creating the paradigm in which you exist? I love how in American Gods, that little social media god said, he said, he who controls the paradigm is God. The people who have made you see the world the way that it is, that have given you your concept of God, just by giving you your concept of God, they have become your God. Because it wasn't concept. You weren't allowed to form a concept on your own. And even when you get to the point where you start questioning, just you questioning, they're gonna attack you or call you crazy or or a heathen or something like that, because you begin to question what you are being told or what you're being taught. They call it a council culture right now, that you can't question nothing. They don't want you to question nothing. Do not question authority. Don't question anything. Well, that right there is suppressing your intelligence, because how you going to learn anything if you don't have a question about something? How can you make an intelligent decision if you don't have all the information necessary to make that decision, which can only be garnered through asking a question? Yusef Roberts' Rule of Order is what a good book to outline the legal system. Is a classic work on parliamentary procedure, so good for U.S. as well as the U.K. Okay, thank you for that. The word vaccine means cow. No vaccine is ever meant for humans, only cows. Look up the meaning. I can probably believe that too. But they consider us to be cattle. And you got to think about this thing too. Okay, there's a document called what is it? It was in Behold a Pale Horse, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, I think it gave you a good insight to what they think of you, all right? Of what a group of elite people happen to think of you, all right? And it's in the section on energy, all right? When you get to the section on energy. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read the part where they talk about what they want to do. I'm going to start with, okay, the reason that they feel like they are entitled to rule the world, okay, and depopulate and all of that, is because you are refusing to use your intelligence for yourself. But let's look and see how they worded it. It says, okay, all science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge, the end is control. Beyond this remains only one issue. Who will be the beneficiary? Okay? Who's going to be the beneficiary of all this control? In 1954, this was the issue of primary concern. Although the so-called moral issues were raised, in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. All right, so right here, you are being told, all right, that natural selection, okay, because the elite do believe that wealthy people are genetically predisposed to wealth, and poor people are genetically predisposed to being poor. And so that's called natural selection. All right, so they're supposed to be in control, and you're supposed to be the slave, okay? And you're refusing to use your intelligence, so you're exercising free will, and that is the choice and your consent to be ruled over. Saying right now, you know. So look at what they say next. They say, consequently, in the interest of future world order, peace, and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American public with an ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy, wealth, of the undisciplined and irresponsible many into the hands of the self-disciplined and responsible and worthy few. Now, this is something I'm always constantly trying to talk to the women in my life about and letting them know that, look, you got to start demonstrating some self-control, some responsibility. It can begin with your home and your finances. You know, start being responsible. Start being willy-nilly with everything and start exercising responsibility. All right? Because that's what they do. They're responsible. They say, we are the responsible and worthy few. These people are irresponsible. They saying they are the ones that are responsible. In order to implement this objective, it was necessary to create, secure, and apply weapons, which, as it turned out, were a class of weapons so subtle and sophisticated in their principle of operation and public appearance as to earn for themselves the name silent weapons. In conclusion, well, that's it. That's all I need to read right there. But that was a very eye-opening document when they told you how they can automate society. This is what this document is about. It's about automating society. And one of the ways they do it is through shock testing, okay? Because one of the principles of nature is cause and effect, and human beings are creatures of habit. So they shock test you by creating some incident in the public and monitor how you react to it. And then they log that down into an AI computer, and that computer can race along to the future and make predictions on if they do certain things, what kind of reaction are they going to get from the general public based off of all this data that they've been collecting from, you know, how we travel on the website, how we surf the internet, you know, using a Kroger Plus card or some sort of Plus card where they're giving you cash back. So you letting them know what you bought and who you are, giving them the demographics on it. You know, anything that they need data. That's why Facebook is so good and it's free, because they collect more data than the CIA can collect. Where you at, who your friends are, who you related to, what you did today, where you were located. Facebook has more information on you than the CIA. But all of this information is going into an AI. It's being programmed right now. It would be foolish to think that it's not. And they telling you they got AI. And they collecting. What do you think they collecting all this data for? Information is wealth. That's what the currency is right now, information. What we got right here? We got this is what democracy is. So let's see. The kingdom of heaven is within you, and who find it, astral projection is being born again in the spirit. I think so too. I think people, you know, I've been studying that concept. Robert Monroe has a book called Far Journeys, and he has a Monroe Institute. I think it's in Virginia. And that's all they do is study astral projection. I'll check them out. Out of body experiences. How can one protect themselves if they are a continent in real property? The donkey is a beast of burden. I don't understand that. The Santa Clara Supreme Court decision, too, allows a corp the status of a person. Okay, well, yeah, a corporation is a person. They're artificial persons. Revocation of court's charter was approachable. The corp is a slave or shareholder, yet slavery is illegal. Slavery is not illegal. Voluntary servitude. Involuntary servitude is what is illegal, not voluntary servitude. Remember, I said they need your consent on everything. Peace to God. No, James 2:19. You believe that God is one. Good for you. Even the demons believe that and shudder. I mean, there's one force in the universe, but that's not what a definition of a God is. When you call it a God, and besides the definite article, the God. Okay, there's a difference in the God and a God. The gods, all right. All a God is someone who has demonstrated self mastery. The only reason they are against the people is because they fear their insanity. When you reach their level, you may feel different. And that is very true, KXXK. That was a very, very thoughtful comment. And that's the type of comment that leads you to start investigating information and then changing your opinion about things. I think a lot of different organizations have been demonized, like the Illuminati, the Masonic Brotherhood and the Rosicrucian and, different orders like that, only because, the general population is not at that level of education. Does everybody really think they know the true nature of reality? You think you just know? That's really interesting. Somebody would be that presumptuous. I haven't received any type of education or mentorship in any of the esoteric sciences, but believes that they got a good handle on the nature of reality. Let's see. Zuckerberg translated is Sugar Mountain. I love it when you call me big data. Adam Spence tuning in on your channel daily for your content. It was enlightening me and made me much more knowledgeable. You're welcome. You're welcome. Can anyone become a member of the elites? I think anyone can become elite. I don't think you necessarily mean to have a need to become a member. I mean, members, these are private organizations. They can invite you in. I mean, technically, yeah, because all they got to do is make the decision to make you a member. But can you force your way into some private membership? No. No, but can you have access to the same information they have? Yeah. Nature of reality is God. I like that. Nature of reality is God. I would say that the nature of reality is anything that doesn't change, which in y'all terminology would be God, because y'all say God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. God has to be unchanging, because if God could change, that means there's something outside of God that could work change upon God. And there's no other force but God. So there's nothing to work change upon God. So God is changeless. And everything else that emanates from God changes constantly. So the only true reality is God. Y'all catch that? What you desire shall soon be yours. For what I desire is already mine. You'll sign it in blood. What you desire shall soon be yours. For what I desire is already mine. You'll sign it in blood. What is that? We're in a new location in the Milky Way. This is a new age, and elites are shook. Yeah, we are in another cycle, entering in another cycle, another 24,000 year cycle, I think. The world has been hacked 9/23/15. The Mandela effect began. It's not create your own reality. I've read a little bit on the Mandela effect. Don't really worry about things like that, because you are the center of your universe. Remember that. You're the center of your universe. Yusef, please speak on the theory, not yours, that bisexuals are gatekeepers. I didn't say bisexuals are gatekeepers. Why would I speak on that theory? You can read about, I ain't never read bisexuals are gatekeepers. What do you mean bisexuals are gatekeepers? Y'all just be making some shit. Y'all say some shit and then expect me to answer it like I agree with that shit. Or I said it. I ain't never said bisexuals or gatekeepers. No, what I did, if you're referring to a past show, I was discussing out of a book called The Matrix 5 by Val Valerian, when there was a homosexual shaman who wrote a section in that book that said that the last incarnation is the homosexual. That homosexuals are more spiritually developed than straight people because they've tuned in with their masculine and feminine sides. Something to that effect. Something that I agree with because everything in the universe is in the two sections, masculine and feminine. So it just sounded like a treatise to me that was promoting homosexuality, but it was interesting to look at somebody else intelligently make a case for it spiritually. I read everything. I'm trying to convince family members they don't need public assistance. What helpful advice would you give? Anytime, you teach a man, give a man a fish, he can eat for a day. Teach him how to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. The thing that you have to teach people how to do to work on their own is start introducing them to the law of attraction. If they are religious-minded people, like real tough Christians, I would introduce them to somebody like Reverend Ike. If they're going to really sit and listen, they have to be open-minded, first of all. Reverend Ike is probably one of the baddest fucking Christian preachers ever to come along. He spawned a whole generation of prosperity preachers. And prosperity preachers receive a bad rap, but I'm not adverse to prosperity preachers at all because they are utilizing the law of attraction principle and they've clothed it in their religious, doctrine or the theology. So, like Mark 11:22 through 26, where it says, if you take this mountain and if you tell this mountain to be cast into the sea, but do not doubt in your heart, but believe the things that you said as if they have happened, then nothing shall be impossible for you. And that was Jesus Christ who said that statement. And he's saying, the things I do, you can do more and even better and greater. And he called you a God. He was saying all kind of things all throughout the Gospels of what you are capable of doing. But one of the qualifications for it is that when you say something, you got to believe that it's already happened. For you to believe that it's already happened means that you have to understand how nature operates. In other words, when you speak something which is a vibratory frequency and it goes out into the universe, what's the cause and effect relationship that is incorporated in that? And are there any other variables that need to be implemented to ensure that you get the desired result? And one of them is that you can't doubt. One of them is that you got to continuously put the vibration out there. So that's going to require time. That's why you say an affirmation every day. You know, once you learn the mechanics of manifesting, because it's a mechanical operation, because cause and effect makes it that way. Once you understand that it's a mechanical operation and that you're going to get what you want with precision, and then now you begin to teach people to do that. And now you're teaching them how to change their life, as opposed to trying to give them something physically, which doesn't do anything but hamstring them even more. Giving somebody something instead of teaching them how to do something for themselves hurts a person. Everybody has to go through their own test and their own trial. Not to say that you shouldn't be gracious and not give zakat or not give somebody some money or something like that. You should do all those things. But at the same time, you got to understand that people are responsible for their own condition. And in a way, the elite are looking at people as if they are insane. And why are you insane? You're insane because you're projecting a thought out into the universe. It's coming back to you. You have not associated that fact that you sent that thought into the universe and it came back to you. And you react to what has happened to you as if it's some sort of outside circumstance separate from yourself. And then that reaction sends another thought out into the universe, and you just repeat the cycle all over again. And you begin to look insane. The only time that you come into effect when you become sane is when you realize that you're the one that's causing it. And for this to happen, it requires that you're going to have to be responsible. So when you're calling somebody a god, okay, this is in essence what you are referring to. You're referring to the process that is necessary for the first step being for them to accept responsibility for their thinking, how they think. Because thinking is the originator of everything. When you get possessed, all they're saying is some entity affected your thoughts. Because the only activity that a spirit can engage in is thought. Anybody want to Treat my brother, peace to the gods. I'm here. You thank you. Welcome. It's accountability. You got to be accountable not for your actions, but for your thoughts. You got to be accountable for your actions, but I mean, what precedes your actions are your thoughts. So that's the cause. The causal plane is spiritual, it's mental. The effect is everything physical. There's no power in the effect. The power is in the cause. So we have to locate, well, what's the cause? The cause is thought. And once we start getting in control of our thoughts, now we can become supermen and women, because now we can demand that the forces of nature do our bidding. And this is when you hear them say that the only way to defeat nature is to obey her. You have to bring yourself in harmony with the laws of nature. And now when you operate, once you master those laws, you brought yourself into harmony with them. Now you can begin to utilize them for your benefit. Now you can use the forces of nature to bend to your will. So someone who is refusing, who wants to work for someone, or who wants to, just do anything, just wants to be, ruled over, or who's afraid, or who just doubts or disbelieves. Sometimes you got to go out and do things and prove things to yourself. Sometimes you got to put God to the test, because, God make all these statements in the Bible. He'll never leave you. Like in the Sirach, it was the one in Sirach was beautiful to me. He said, show me a time where somebody prayed to me and I didn't answer. That was interesting. It's in the Sirach chapter 2. Has there ever been a time? It's really interesting. So you got to put them to the test. Sometimes y'all don't put them to the test. I'm not saying test God like in a bad way. I'm saying somebody says something, have faith that it's going to happen like that. And then once you start stepping out on faith and seeing something happen for yourself, that's what's beautiful about stepping out on faith, is when you step out on faith and then you look back and like, man, if I had never taken that risk or stepped out, I wouldn't be where I am today. But I'm glad I had the courage to take a different route. It changed my life. This life that was going to result in drudgery and mediocrity and boredom, I've taken another path, and now I've got a life of excitement. I'm seeing things. I'm traveling. I'm not so mad at rich people anymore. I ain't mad. You can't never get rich if you hate rich people. You ain't never gonna get rich hating rich people. You will never get rich hating rich people. Never. That ain't never happening. Let's see where we at now. That's why when we get something we don't expect. We got it because we projected it and didn't notice it caused we were not paying attention that we were thinking it. Or not necessarily that you're thinking, it's not necessarily exactly what you're thinking. It's the emotion behind the thought that triggers everything. And so you'll get something that is similar to the emotional frequency that you put out. So like if it's fear, then the universe will bring you something else to be afraid of in like kind. It may not be the exact kind, but it'll be in like kind. Like, because it's going to create that same energy. So like if you have an argument with your girlfriend and then you leave driving in the car and then you have an accident. You had the accident, not necessarily because you were thinking of the accident, but it was because you were projecting an emotion, energy in motion that was negative as it relates to your feelings to your significant other. Okay, and that was propagated based off of the fact that this, I don't want to say spiritual entities, but that energy was continued by you having the accident. So that's why you always hear people say, and the first thing in the law of attraction is you got to get rid of all negativity. Like when you were talking about getting away from negative people, that's scientific. That's not something that, oh, we just like, you don't like the person. No, there's a scientific reason for not hanging around negative people. There's a scientific reason for not having negative thoughts. These are scientific reasons for all of this, for you to separate yourself from negativity. It's incumbent upon you that you do that. You got to sever any ties that you have with anybody who's making you feel in a certain kind of way. And you got to immerse yourself in a pool of positivity. You got to go after that positive on everything. That right there is so important. I keep positive negativity away from me. I think it's a million miles away. And that might mean you can't hang out with as many people. And sometimes when you start eliminating negativity from your life, people start dropping out of your life. In particular, when you start fasting, water fasting, all that negativity, because you got to clean out your temple too. But as you cleaning out your temple, as your vibrational frequency changes, the type of people that you are hanging around is going to change as well. Usually if you're hanging around toxic people, it's because you got a toxic system, your toxic environment inside your body. You eating all this bad food and stuff like that plays a big role in it too. What we got? Let's see. Let's see. I'm just trying. Your eyes do not see 99% of the electromagnetic spectrum. Those that know they don't die. And that's very true. You don't see the majority of the electromagnetic spectrum. You only see the, between what? Infrared and ultraviolet. That's about, which is very, very small. The evidence that, there are things that exist outside of your ability to perceive it is a dog whistle. You can blow a dog whistle and you can't hear it, but a dog can. So there are states of existence that exist outside of your ability to perceive them. Let's see, it's not about a virus, it's all a money grab and hurting people in the process. Well, hey, you are voluntarily doing it. Your lack of faith, at the basis of it, I think the only thing that they really proven is the fact that you're a heathen because you put more faith in men of science than in nature. Y'all not trying to trying to go out there and get a natural remedy. Right in your Bible, he said, "I gave you the herbs of the field for your healing." There is a herb on this planet for any type of condition that you could possibly come in contact with. But you don't want that. You want something cooked up in a lab, and you voluntarily consenting to it. They have a consent form that they get you to sign. So you, in my opinion, you're proving their point that, hey, y'all worthless people anyway. We should make money off of you. Ain't nothing but worthless heathens. Just saying. Because the people who run this planet are very spiritual. Don't ever doubt that. Whether it's something dealing with the devil or not, it's in the spirit world, is my point. Let's see, what do you say, God? Like that, that's like a dog. If the dog doesn't like a person first time around them, most likely they're a bad person. Dogs do sense energy. They are very good at that. You should eat meat once a week. I don't think you should eat meat at all, but once a week is definitely going to help you a lot. But I don't think we meant to eat animals. I mean, it tastes good. Don't get me wrong. I understand, and definitely a hard habit to break. Back to Eden is a very, very good book. Everybody should have Back to Eden in their library. I always constantly keep a copy in mind. Back to Eden. Man, there's rich people out there premeditating the deprivation of our kids' full potential use. Okay, so what? So? Are you trying to say all rich people are doing that? You want to put that on rich people? They can plan all they want to. They can't do nothing if you don't allow them to. I just told you that everything on this planet is voluntary. I don't give a damn what they plot. You the one acquiescing to it. You either doing it out of stupidity or fear. One of the two. And if fear is adultery with God, because you're supposed to have faith. Just saying, I'm just putting it out there, because this is what this is. It's a spiritual warfare that y'all involved in. That's ultimately what it is. Men of knowing, and if any man thinks that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet he is ought to know. It sounds like something the Apostle Paul would say. They have a legal maxim that says, many men know many things. No man knows everything. Can you explain the 7 principles? Yeah, I can explain them. Like, comment, and subscribe. The 7 principles are vibration, correspondence. The 7 principles are mentalism, correspondence, vibration, rhythm, polarity, cause and effect, and gender. Those are the 7 principles. You can also see it mentioned in Proverbs 9:1 when it says, wisdom is hewn on our house and built up her 7 pillars. Those 7 pillars are there's something that everything in nature rests on, because a pillar is what a foundation rests on. So it's saying those 7 pillars, those immutable laws, and you see some religious people try to interpret it their way and call it love and all this kind of stuff right here. No, the ancients had it, the Egyptians and everything. They understood what those 7 principles that are derived from direct observation by people with good reasoning skills. A man of reason would be able to decipher these particular principles. And the first one is mentalism. There shouldn't be any argument that everything begins and ends with a thought. Hell, even in the court system that we're talking about, you are not guilty unless the mind is guilty. You know it's a maxim of law, that you're not guilty unless the mind is guilty. That's why they do an examination and a cross-examination. What do you think that they're examining? They're examining your mind, okay? So you can't be guilty unless your mind is guilty. And the only way that you cannot be guilty is when your conscious mind and your subconscious mind are in alignment with each other, because the subconscious never lies. The conscious mind will, because that's the seat of the will. There's no will in the subconscious mind. It is the recorder of everything that happens in your life, which constitutes the Akashic record. Okay? Now, the first one is mentalism. So you have something called constructive thought, and you have deconstructive thought. Okay, people who are destructive in their thoughts are awry. Their thoughts are all over the place. They're not disciplined in their thinking. Okay, they can't control what they think. They reactive. All right, they don't use their imagination or anything like that. All right, these are people who are basically what the elite would call slaves, because they're going to end up only doing what they are told to do. Because if you can't think for yourself, then that means that somebody else is thinking for you. But somebody's doing the thinking, and it's either you or someone else. All right? So mentalism is the first thing. It's also the causal plane. All right? Because everything is derived from a thought. Everything that you see is thought into existence. There's no man-made creation that you're looking at that wasn't thought of first. So thought is the first principle. The next one is correspondence. As above, so below. When we say as above, so below, we're talking about the different spiritual planes. We're talking about the mental, spiritual, and physical plane. And once again, this relates to cause and effect, but it's also their relationship with each other, which is kind of like the electromagnetic spectrum. Or a good example would be water, how it goes through all the different states, solid, liquid, and gas. A thought would be the gas, okay, and a spirit would be the liquid, and then of course, solid would be the ice when it solidifies and it manifests and takes shape on the physical plane. All right. So as above, so below. So when I look at a person's physical condition, they're in a state of poverty. Okay. That's a good indicator to me that they have poor thoughts. They think poorly all the time, because I'm looking at their outward condition, and their outward condition is a direct result of their inward condition. Okay. So outside circumstances are determined by internal conditions. So the internal condition of your mind is going to dictate what you have in your life. If you're going to have happiness, then you have to be happy first. No one can make you happy. You have to be happy first, internally. No one and nothing can make you happy. You have to be happy first. And then things that make you happy and feed that happiness will be given to you. So it's an internal thing. Just like it says in Luke 17:21, look ye neither here nor there, but the kingdom of God is in you. So mentalism is the first, and then correspondence, as above, so below. All right. Whatever you think is going to manifest. That's essentially what that means, succinctly. Whatever you think is going to manifest. The next one is vibration. I think that science has already confirmed the fact that everything in existence is vibrating. It just has its different forms and textures based off of the frequency and the rhythm and, different electromagnetic frequencies and everything. But everything is composed of the same thing at its core. Atoms, protons, neutrons, and electrons. Everything is made of the same thing. That's why there's no empty space. Even empty space is composed of it. Some people want to call it spirit. Some people want to call it this sea of dark matter. It's a scientific term for it. Some people want to call it the undifferentiated, as it's referred to in the Capitalism. But it's in Think and Grow Rich by Wallace Wattles, he referred to it as thinking stuff. Whatever thought you put in it, it gives you the same thing back. It's like a pattern. You just think it and it bounces back to you, whatever thought it is. This is also the reason why you have to learn how to develop yourself spiritually, because you are supposed to be preparing yourself for the afterlife. Because in the afterlife, there's no buffer in the time zone. Your thoughts automatically occur. And this is why they say that you give yourself hell. When you watch that TV show Lucifer, that's what they're saying. When you go to hell, you can get out of hell. They call it a hell loop. You're giving yourself hell. You're guilty about something. And that's why you got to get rid of all guilt, as it says in Matthew 11:22-26, that the first thing you got to do is forgive yourself, because you got to be deserving of what your request is. But understand, we got mentalism, correspondence, and vibration. Everything vibrates, and everything has a polarity. There are two sides to everything. There are two sides to everything. Up, hot, cold, up, down, hard, soft, dark, night, right, left, public, private. Everything has two sides. And they are a polarity of each other. They are connected. And this is where the alchemical sciences start to come in, because you can only change something from one state to the next state if it shares a relationship. Like hot and cold share a relationship. You can't turn cold into gold. You can turn lead into gold because they're on the same scale. Okay? All right, so that's what the alchemists understand. This alchemical process also is how you correct your character as well. When I was saying that you write down all your negative things, you have to know yourself, and then you write all the corresponding polar opposites on the opposite side of the page, and then you can draft an affirmation, because it takes repetition as the key to learning, and it has to burn inside of your subconscious mind, and that's done through repetition. So you're going to correct your character by, first of all, doing a self-assessment of yourself. Know thyself, and to thyself be true. You have to be truthful with yourself. That's why some people can't pass initiations. Initiation is find out who you really are. Are you true to yourself? The next one we have is rhythm. For everything, there is a season. All right, there's a rhythmical interaction with everything in creation. You say you hide the vicissitudes of life. You have your highs and your lows. You even think it sometimes, man, I'm having all this good stuff happen to me. It's bound to happen. Something bad is going to happen. The pendulum is going to swing to the other side. But as it talks about in the Capitalism, you can learn to circumvent that pendulum swing by polarizing yourself on one side of it. And that's what we're talking about. Get rid of all the negativity in your life. Pay your karmic debt. Accept what happens to you. Understand it's a debt that's being paid off. And don't create any more new negative karma for yourself. And do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. But there's a rhythm. The next is that there is a cause and effect, one of the most important principles to understand, because this gives structure and order to the universe, and is also where your faith comes in. You put faith in cause and effect, because if you do the same thing, you will get the same thing. As they say, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect something different, because nature doesn't operate like that. If you do the same thing, you will get the same thing. If you want to have change in your life, then you have to change what you're doing. Nothing is going to change as long as you keep doing the same thing. And then the last one is gender, which is masculine and feminine. It has nothing to do with vaginas and penises or anything like that. It is talking about two polar opposite energies. We could easily call it negative and positive, whatever. Active and passive is one that I like. Active principle and passive principle. Anything feminine is passive. Anything feminine is receptive. Okay, that's why you call her Mother Nature, because she receives thought from you into the void, into nature, and she gives back in like kind. Any seed that you plant in Mother or Earth, she brings forth in like kind. You put your sperm inside of a woman, it's going to come forth in like kind. So anything that is dealing in masculine and feminine, the masculine principle is active and the feminine principle is passive. The feminine principle is the doorway into manifestation. The conscious mind is masculine. The subconscious mind is feminine. Did that do it for you? Let me hit you back. I'm live streaming on YouTube right now. All right. All right. So I guess that was it. I might have to get off. How long I've been on? I think I did my little time today. Y'all enjoy that? Who knows that unless they've been taught that once that's in your mind, how did that transform your view of self, the guilt in your mind? That's a very good question. You know, who knows it? Well, everybody's going to get a time. The truth will be known to the whole world, and then the end will come. That's a love principle. Okay. When the student is ready, the master will appear. It's all kind of ways of doing things. Everybody is headed back to God. So everybody's going to run across the truth. You're going to have an opportunity to have the truth at some point. You know, right now you're getting it when you're supposed to be getting it. And how you get rid of your guilt and everything is by understanding that you're the one creating it. Okay? If you understand, you come into an acceptance that you're the one that is creating all these circumstances in your life, then why would you feel guilty about something? Okay? You have to take up the scepter of power and then understand that, hey, look, I can change all of this. It doesn't matter what circumstance you're in right now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you're at right now. It doesn't matter if you're living on the street. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. It doesn't matter if, you know, whatever happened to you, what negative circumstance, you can change that circumstance right now by changing your thought patterns. And miracles will happen. That's how miracles do happen. Miracles happen. What is required? It's required for you to believe. Anything you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. You have to conceptualize it first, and then you have to have a belief in it. And belief is something that we have to discuss. What is belief? Are we talking about blind belief? Are we talking about belief based off of a knowledge of a given state of principles that have been demonstrated through observation and reason to work mathematically precise all the time? I can believe in that. I'm not talking about blind belief. So, as I said, it's all scientific. So once you get to the point where you educate yourself scientifically, now you can begin, you know, down this road of, you know, self-healing. And it's all a work in process. It's nothing that happens overnight. It's nothing that happens overnight, but you just got to be willing to walk the road. You know, the road to success is not a short road. It's a long road. But it is, once you travel it and you look back, you give yourself, you have so much self-esteem and respect in yourself, knowing that you did it, that you decided to take that walk and you completed it. You got through it. You got to understand it's going to be tests that are going to come your way. There are tests that are going to come your way. Everything in life is about a test. There's always going to be a test. There's no such thing as a life without tests. There's going to be tests that are going to rise. All it is what is your ability to respond to the test? What they call responsibility. What is your ability to respond to it? That's what we're trying to gauge. Have you matured enough in your character to respond to a given set of circumstances and address it accordingly and understand how to resolve it. And how you have to understand how to resolve it is you have to know the principles of nature. These are the things that we should be educating our children about. Children should be knowing all. This is information that children are supposed to know. This is supposed to be the foundation of their education. How can you even operate in reality or in society not understanding the nature of reality or the natural laws that regulate everything? When you think about it, it's ridiculous that we have even something called public education, or that people even deem themselves to be educated at all without this thorough knowledge. Some of it they know. You know, some scientists, they know about cause and effect because that principle rules in their world. But a lot of the other ones, they haven't accepted and grasped yet. They're coming to it. But right now, what they want to do is they are fighting for the minds of the people. What do you think marketing is? What do you think propaganda is? It's all with a view to get your mind. And the only free person is a person that thinks for himself. If you're not thinking for yourself, you ain't free. Said, why do some people say it's satanic practice? They stupid. It's like what it says in the Bible. Do not cast your pearls before swine. Let's read what Jesus said about that. Because that's a Kabbalion. You know, when Jesus said that he took that from the Kabbalion. That it came before when Jesus said it. Do not cast your pearls before swine. So the people who are calling it the 7 principles of Satanism, they swine. And there's a whole section dedicated to talking about that in the Kabbalion. That these people, that when you start talking about the forces of nature, they equate magic and all that with something evil. When there's really no such thing as good and evil. Like it says in Isaiah, he said, you know, I create the light and the dark, I create evil. You know, God said that because everything comes from what? One source. Nothing would exist if Allah had not created it. Nothing. So anything that comes into existence, God created it. So the concept of good and evil is a man-made concept. What we're talking about are polarities of energies. But this concept of good and evil is something you created. And you take an O away from good, you get God, and add a D to evil, you get devil. So these are concepts of polarity that you have labeled, you know, made God into a white man, gave the devil half man, half goat, and all this kind of stuff right here. And now you have foisted this on people through indoctrination. And they really believe that it is a part of some sort of truth when they haven't really even investigated the matter thoroughly themselves. For one, they don't even know that the word God is not even in there. It's the word Elohim, not even Yahuwah or Yahweh, like people like to say. The primary word that's being used in there is Elohim, which is a plural, which is why they say, let us create man in our image. And all through the Quran, they say, we did this to you, Muhammad, but they just ignore that or they explain it away. So if we want to get into a discussion about what's satanic, because, you know, I'm very much armed and prepared to have those discussions, because you're not going to let religious zealots or heretics try to scare me into not talking about something or anything like that when the truth don't need to be protected at all. Truth stands on its own. What is that? Matthew 7:6. Give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. And that's what you see with those people. You start talking about, what if I said this demonistic, other than telling people to take responsibility for themselves? What you don't like about it is you don't like the fact that I'm telling you got the power of God in you, because you want people to get on their knees and prostrate and worship and beg and depower the people. And I'm not going to do that. And neither was the Messiah teaching that. Because what it is you people who teach against this right here, what you truly are, Antichrist. And this is what it's talked about in Matthew chapter 24:5. It talks about, he said, many shall come in my name saying I'm Christ and deceive many. And the only people that are coming in Jesus' name are Christians. And these are the ones that are they doing the most deceiving by not properly teaching what this book is really talking about. Keep teaching, indoctrinating people instead of educating people. putting they spin on the meaning of something. And then start calling people names because they're going against the status quo. And that's another thing. If you got the truth, people gravitate to the truth. The truth is like honey, bees to honey. You ain't got to come on and try to defame somebody else or try to attack somebody else's character so you can build yourself up and build up a following for yourself. All you got to do is come out and start telling the truth. You're gonna get followers anyway, and people gonna come and start listening to you. But if ain't nobody listening to you, it's probably because you don't have the truth. You ain't resonating with nobody. The truth has a certain resonation, a certain frequency about it. It penetrates deep into people's minds. And that is why people come out and try to start denouncing information, because they see it penetrating into people, but you want to construe it as that, oh, you are indoctrinating people or doing something like that or teaching them something evil or something like that. And then start trying to call, well, Yusef, he really some sort of 33-degree Mason, or he's with some sort of, they start doing all that shit. They ain't got no evidence of that. You see when he was talking, how he threw a sign and shit. Right here, when he did that shit right there, he threw this sign and shit. I don't know, have nothing to do with the Masonic order. And not to say that they're a bad organization, but, all the Masons looking at me and say, he ain't threw no signs. Let's see, because I know 133-degree Mason, and he's cold. He's cold with it. John 10:34 answered them all, saying, it is not written in your law, you're gods. Yep, that's what they say. But they'll tell you that you're not. Jesus Christ will say that, and they'll go pull a scripture from Paul to counteract it. They letting you know who they are. They really not supporters of Jesus. They're really supporters of the Apostle Paul, because they don't know who they are. They think that because, Jesus in 10:5 said, go not to the Samaritans or to the Gentiles, go ye and find the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But later on, Paul had this roadside conversion. He met Jesus in, Acts chapter 9:2. And I think you got Acts chapter 18, verse 9, where he tells this story where he met Jesus on the roadside. I think it's also in Acts chapter 22. Verse 9, where he met Jesus on the roadside. And in one story, he said, the people that was with me saw the light, didn't hear the voice. And then he tells the story again and said the people heard the voice, didn't see nothing. Okay. Those, this contradiction, blatant contradiction in the stories and all of this. And who Luke was. He was a physician and the sidekick of Paul, who wrote Acts. And Paul, whose name was really Saul, which means asked, and Paul, which means little. And he can change his name from Saul to Paul. He changed his name from a Hebrew name to a Roman Greek name to represent his conversion. And then he came out and went against Barnabas and Peter and all of the other disciples, most of which didn't want to fuck with him. The only one who did was Barnabas, because Barnabas' name means son of comfort. So he was the one that was easily persuaded, and eventually he left him. And then Paul went out on his own, started teaching his own doctrine. And anybody can pull up and see the contradictions between Jesus Christ and Paul. But they won't use their baseline for the truth, the Gospels. They will instead resort to the 13 books of Paul, because they don't know who they are. They think they Gentiles. They think they Gentiles, and they think they're not under any law. Now, I just gave you what it is. They won't tell you that. But if you engage them in a conversation, you will begin to see, especially some of these Jehovah's Witnesses, that Paul is their true Messiah. They won't expressly say that, but you're going to see that in everything that they talk about. I never understood in Jesus' name and that he was God, because I never understood that either. They say there are three that bear record: the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, and these three are one. And I think that's 1 John 5:7, I believe. Now, the interesting thing about that scripture, if you do just a cursory investigation into it, you're going to find out that scripture don't exist in no Bible prior to the 15th century. The three that bear record in heaven, and these three are one. And that's what they got to make. And when Jesus said, I and the Father are one, you become one with somebody when you become one in purpose with them, when you are completely obedient. And that is when we get to the point when he said, if God is with you, who can be against you? God can only be with you if you 100% with him. You're either all right or you're not right at all. Like he says in Revelations, because you are lukewarm, I will spew you out of my mouth. So you got to be all the way on the left or all the way on the right, but you can't straddle the fence. So you're either with God or you're not. But if you're with God, who can be against you? There isn't, as I said, what force can work change on God? Can't, because there's only one force. It's not two. Thank you. Demi-urge concept. No, I'm not familiar with that. Somebody's, it just sounds like a name somebody made up some shit. Demi-urge concept. In Platonic schools, so this is Plato. Plato, you know, they got all their education from Egypt. All right. I had to put that out there because y'all talk about Plato, Aristotle, and all them boys like nobody taught them. In the Platonic school of philosophy, the demiurge is a deity who fashions the physical world in the light of external ideas. In Timaeus, Plato credits the demiurge with taking pre-existing materials of chaos and arranging them in accordance with the models of external forms. This is right in accordance with the Kabbalion, just taught in a mythological way, but which is how they taught back then in stories. To tell about the nature of reality, they did it usually through stories, which is why you should probably, you know, get your children back on Aesop's fables and things like that. But nowadays, the word demiurge can refer to the individual or group chiefly responsible for a creative idea. All right, well, they're given the modern day connotation of the word, but the one that I'm interested in is the Platonic school of philosophy interpretation. And that is right. Chaos is another name for the undifferentiated or triple darkness, or what you would call God in his unchanging state. All right. When there was no thing or nothingness. All right. And he took pre-existing materials out of chaos. These pre-existing materials is everything what the substantive, what reality is composed of. All right. Which there is no empty space. There is no such thing as no thing. Because something can never come from nothing. So there had to be pre-existing materials. How we describe it is, we don't know because there was no thing, but it was something there, but we couldn't see, touch, taste, feel it, or nothing. But we could take it and put a thought into it and things would manifest, or God could speak into it and creation would come about. Vibration. So right here, he said in the Timaeus, Plato credits the demiurge with taking pre-existing materials of chaos and arranging them in accordance with the models of external forms. This just sounds like the process of manifestation being told in a very ancient philosophical way. But when you know the principle, it's easy for you to see that. When you don't know the principle, you don't. Especially when we start talking about Greeks and Romans, because they got everything from the Egyptians and the Sumerians, even their gods. They don't have nothing, they ain't create nothing on their own. So if you really want to get the real information, what you really want to do is study the Egyptian sciences. Just saying. That's right. That's why Jesus said, why do you call me Lord, Lord, but do you not do the will of my Father? Yeah. Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Emerald Tablets of Thoth also incorporate some of the principles. They have one of the sections is cause and effect. A very good section. Cause and effect is the keys to prophecy. Cause and effect is the keys to prophecy. You got a chapter in there on prophecy, how you really prophesy. You can only really prophesy when you know cause and effect. Because there's an exact thing going to happen when an exact action is taken. So yeah, you can prophesy on what's going to happen. You become a master of cause and effect. I believe Jordan Maxwell has said that the Egyptians have learned their knowledge from the Druids or India. Jordan Maxwell would say some old dumbass shit like that. If he said it, I don't know if he said it. I've never seen Jordan Maxwell say that, but no, he didn't learn anything from that. I don't know why y'all always are so intent on taking credit away from black civilizations. You know, anyone who's been over there see that 90% of the hieroglyphics are dark-skinned people. So y'all can cut this thing. Even Kemet means of the dark mud of the ground, or, you know, that's what it means. You know, it means dark. Okay. All right. So y'all, and Egyptian mean burnt face people. That was referring to the Hyksos. That's a Greek term in the 18th dynasty. All right. But I wish y'all would still, you know, stop this notion that, you know, y'all don't want to give credence to black civilizations because y'all want to have this narrative that black people never did anything of any meaning on this planet. because it's this notion that there are other races of people that they think you think you're superior intellectually, when the evidence can't be denied because they put the shit right there in stone and you can't even hide it. And you can't even explain it. Really listening to some of the explanations you give are ridiculous. It makes me think, wow, this person is a professor. Oh, 20,000 slaves built the pyramid, huh? Just ridiculous. What they say, you know, these theories that they come up with. Y'all need to let black people explain it because it's in our DNA. And y'all need to just stay the fuck away from it. The Egyptian civilization appeared out of nowhere. So did the Sumerians. And that's why you got pyramids all over this planet. So I don't know nothing about no Druids and no Incas and all that. Those civilizations came later on. Try to hit the Druids. The Druids got it straight up from the Egyptians. You need to stop the nonsense. All that stuff come from Egypt. Because you know who they all give credit to? Tahuti. He's the thrice great. I don't see on your dollar bill them putting Druid symbols. They got Egyptian symbols. When you go into a Masonic temple, they ain't got no Druid shit in there. That's Egyptian. I done been in a Rosicrucian temple. You think you straight in Egypt. Stop the nonsense. There are pyramids that are older than the ones in Egypt. It may be. But Egypt, Giza, if you put all of the continents back together, it's dead in the center. It tells you the distance. Do all the other pyramids tell you the distance from Earth to the sun? All the geometrical things that are involved with Giza do these other pyramids do. Now, the code by Karl Monk, it's the best research that I've seen on the pyramids and all of the different points on the planet. It's called The Code by Karl Monk. He deserves to me a what is that award they give when you just do something incredible and everything in literature or something like that? Nobel Peace Prize for that. Karl Monk, The Code. It's on YouTube. It's like listening. It's only for intellectuals because there's no fancy graphics or things like that. It's straight somebody teaching you mathematics because mathematics is the language of the universe. And it's very easy for somebody to come out and say something's older than something else. That's very easy for people to say. That's right. All right, so that's going to be it for me today. You know, my name is Yusef L. L means God. So when I say peace to the God, I'm saying peace to the L's out there. Bays too, you know, all you bays out there, y'all, what, Lord, what does bay mean? Like Lord? You know, bay is Turkish, by the way, all right? You don't see no angel with a last name Bay. All the angels' names end in L. Razael, Mikael, Uriel, Ezekiel, L. Just want to put that out there. You should have L in your name somewhere. Peace to the gods and goddesses. You've been listening to the hottest radio network on the planet. This is my little blog for the day. I'll see y'all tomorrow, same time. Peace.